Yes, you are among friends if you know the quote by, I think it's Erasmus, that Cat Paw is coincidentally referencing here. So, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to those around the world. My name is Margaret Pennard. I'm a historical fiction author and eclectic reader, as you saw in today's video title, and you're on Booktube. So, it's a Wednesday and we're a week off, so we've switched our schedule up a little bit, but usually every 2 weeks I do a Wednesday wrap up. And today I have 8 books that I have read in the last 3 weeks because of the extra week. The extra week was because I had a little Booktube anniversary last week, so hopefully we all had cake to celebrate. I'm just finishing up a piece of cake this morning because, breakfast, noon, or night, cake is a good thing. Hello, Catbaw's here first. Woohoo! Julie's here second. Wee-hee! And Tyan Hiru third. We have our little platform of athletes that have won and got gold, silver, and bronze, I guess. Speaking of books, says Catpaw, I bought 2 this morning. Stars of Alabama by Sean Dietrich and The Weight of Goodbye by Eliza Graham. I'm just saying those last names in their native accents from what I can deduce. But I don't know either of those authors, so must have got a good recommendation from somewhere else. Catpaw says, I unexpectedly got a little money, so I spent it on new books. And that is the Erasmus quote that I was referring to. If you don't know, you can Google it. Ven is here. Hello, friend. Did you see the message I left you? Yeah, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the trip planning, and I was getting out not only the adapter plugs that I need, I'm going to borrow one from a friend, but also the currency that I need to bring with me and try to spend so that it doesn't expire, since everyone's changing currency these days. Yay, that's fun, says Tyann. Jim is here. Hello. Jim has booped the like button. Thank you. It is evening over where he is in Georgia. Fantastic. UFO earrings. No, but since you did mention them, I'll give you a little up close. They're just sort of, I don't know, bohemian, Bedouin looking, earrings from the 90s, I think. These are one of the ones that I took away with me when I raided my mom's extra earring walls, because she's had many earrings for her career throughout the decades and cannot possibly wear them all. So I said, hey, do you mind if I take a few of these so they don't just molder in the back of your drawer? And she said, yes, why not? No problem. Hey, Jenny. Hello. Very pretty. Thank you. I wanted a little pop and a little, what do we call this? Tingle, tinkle, crackle, swing. I don't know what you'd call this, but something a little different because my hair is what it is and my sweater is very plain. So I thought I'd give it a little interest. Thank you. Yes, earrings are good for that. Oh, all right. Back to the Wednesday wrap up. Oh, I have got a question of the day, which is a little heavy. You can answer it or you can answer with your current read. But the first book had me thinking about this topic. So the question of the day, before we get into the first book, is there a good function of shame in today's day and age, let's say? Shame. Because it's going to come up in one of the quotes that I'm going to share. Also, I'm just grouping books to like 4 different categories, but I could have gone by size. We've got some very different sizes here. This is the smallest book that I finished, which is about the size of my face. And this is the largest book that I finished, which is about twice the size of my face. So we could have done that, but that's not what I'm doing by size. I'm going to go by this metric. So the first one I'm going to share is the most interesting book. When I look at the books that I read, what was the one that was the most unique and fascinating and useful? Oh, and I went right into the cake. I wasn't lying. Hold on 1 minute. Let me clean off the library book. Dang. going to be even funnier when you realize what the title of the book is. Oh, no. Oh, boy. Oh, my goodness. Well, all right. That's how the cookie crumbles. I don't know. Anyway, I tried to fix this, and it is what it is, right? The book is called How to Keep House While Drowning. And I would categorize this as either self-help or psychology, therapy kind of book. It's by Casey Davis. It's a gentle approach to cleaning and organizing, and it came out of the pandemic. Now, let me know if you've heard about this besides from my channel, because I think it has had kind of a moment. And so I was very interested, but sort of like, oh, is it hype? I don't know. Do I want to read it? Do I need to read it? I don't know. It's a hardcover, tiny book. So I wasn't going to buy it right off, especially. But why is it the most interesting book of the 8 books that I have today? I will say, did I summarize this? Okay. So the general idea is that it's a book about when you are in a terrible situation, when you are depressed, when you have something that's flattening you, for example, chronic illness, so that you cannot perform your regular duties in such a way that you feel like you are on top of things, so that there's sort of a cycle of feeling overwhelmed by everything. How do you keep house? Meaning, how do you keep going with your life so that things are functional? And the main point, I think, that she emphasizes is that you have to remove the morality and the judgments from functional tasks. And it's one of those things that you're like, what does that mean? She gives lots of examples. She gives lots of breakdowns in different areas and what she's done and practiced to sort of get out of her postpartum depression that happened to coincide with the beginning of the pandemic and the lockdown. So that was a really valuable little book. And I'll go into some quotes, but I see we had sort of an explosion of chat due to my slip of the hand. So I'm going to catch up on that before I forget what y'all are talking about. She remembered banners. I did. I do it like at the 2 minutes before I'm supposed to go live. So yeah, that's how we're operating these days. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're just laughing. The book got hungry. It needed the sugar buzz. Apparently, we both did. Yes, we're laughing. Okay. Just drop it in the night box. It's fine. Yeah. Well, yeah. The last 2 pages got a little bite taken out of them, but I don't think there were even page numbers on there, and it wasn't any text. So hopefully that's fine. A little cake never hurts. Blame it on a neighbor's dog or a small child. Hey, well, now we've got video evidence, so I don't think anyone will refute this. Jim says, human beings are social creatures, and shame helps signal that some behavior is unacceptable. Society in which people felt absolutely no embarrassment for bad behavior might become unpleasant. Interesting answer. Yeah, okay, good. We'll build on this. Diane says, when you drop the book into the night box, also drop a piece of cake in. Oh, that would be a waste of cake. Diane, shame is as useful as a landlord. I will not expand. All right. Cat Boss says, it sounds interesting and like something I could do with. Jim says, shame is useful when it encourages conscience and self-correction, but destructive when it becomes humiliation and tells people they are permanently bad. I have a distinction that I think is what you're getting at in this quote. So yeah, we'll expand on it when I get to that part. Jenny says, I feel like shame only works if everyone has the same moral, and unfortunately we don't. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that is a side thing that will affect maybe what I'm going to say. Okay, so that's the major point, and good answers to the question of the day, so thank you all. Let's see. So the first little point here, my sticky note has to do with language and removing the morality from the language. So this is page 28, chapter 5. Instead of cleaning, arrow, resetting the space. So basically she's giving us some clues as to how she changes what she calls things to make it feel different. So cleaning is endless. It's a repetitive task. Resetting the space has a goal. You can reset the space in one go. So I like that. And then another one was calling chores care tasks. Chores are obligations, which doesn't feel great. Care tasks are kindness to self. So you're making your space functional by doing these chores. So call them care tasks. So I liked both of those. And that, I think, illustrates her point of when you take the morality and judgment out of a language. I mean, maybe it didn't originally mean that. A chore didn't have to be negative. It was just something you did around the farm, right? But now we think of, oh, it's a chore, meaning a negative thing. And cleaning doesn't have to be negative either. But I think she gets at the point that it just feels like it's never finished because you can't do everything and start over from zero, from totally clean. So I like that she's pointing out these examples. So I thought I'd share those. Let's see, page 33. Oh, okay. I have a link here. All the descriptions are in, all the links are in the description below because I did this in advance. Also 10 minutes before the stream started. But this one is linked to the buddy read discussion that I just had with Melissa Ike, who's a fellow author tuber, and it's about The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. So we have both read that book, and it's her sort of Agitation August very much changed her life and how she faced things book. And so we talked about it a couple Saturdays ago. So I've got that in the description if you're curious. The quote is, what is quickest is not always what's functional. Even when I'm by myself, I tend to wander excitedly from project to project without quite wrapping up the former one before beginning the next. This isn't a flaw. I like spending my day this way. It's fun and enjoyable for me. It does make for a bigger mess at the end of the day, but the answer isn't to force myself into a clean as you go habit that doesn't work for my brain. The solution is to develop achievable and even rewarding strategies for tackling a larger end of day reset. That's what works for me, and it's just as valid as the choice of those who prefer to clean as they go. And so I thought, oh, ding, 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 it's what works for me. We're getting to the same point as The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, because it's not that any of these are better than any other. It's that some of them work for the way your brain perceives things and some of them don't. So why would you force your brain to do something that feels unnatural? Work with it rather than against it. And so that's just like a great point from that book. And then I saw it in this book and I thought, ooh, biblioserendipity. If I had a cool effect on the camera, I could do like a big sparkly moment there, but I do not. So that was great. And you can see the interview with fellow YouTuber Melissa Ike down below. Page 50, line up everything. So this is another link that I established. Page 50, 51, you do not have to line up every care cycle. Is that what I was highlighting? Maybe it's not. If your laundry system produces clean clothes, then it's working. If you'd like to make it more efficient, then get creative. But remember that upgrading your laundry system can only increase your functioning, not your worth. Yeah, that's good. But the next section is about you don't have to line up every care cycle. Not everything has to be clean at the same time. So if you have like a rolling system where you're like, I can do this part now, get it done. Everything's not clean or not at a complete zero perfectionist point. But like you have a more functional room, you have a more functional system now. And then the next time you can set aside for doing something, you get that little bit done. And that's completely fine. So the one that I had to link for this was Joshi Corinne's channel. So this is a channel that I've gotten into very recently that has to do with planner journals and like sort of reflection, productivity, but in a way that really helps you manage your life rather than make you conform to a great perfectionist planner journal in the sky. And Jess, I think her name is, even though she has Joshi, she's a New Zealander, and she's talking about cycles instead of months because of the way the weeks go out. She talks about optimizing, but then like optimizing is not the be all end all goal, right? You can, here's what I was thinking. You don't have to line up every care cycle is what Casey Davis says. And I feel like optimizing every care cycle, meaning like trying to do all the cleaning at once every Sunday, for example, is letting the optimization influencers rule your life, basically. So don't feel bad if you can't do everything at once to reset everything, to optimize, because that is perfectionism in today's parlance. So just drop it and carry on with your life. That's my advice. And so I linked one of my favorite new spreads that is on one of her recent videos in the description below. So I put the timer on exactly where it starts. It's called What's Wrong, and it's sort of like exploring like what you need at any given moment, giving you like a menu. And I thought that was really helpful. So I've dropped that in the description. Let's see. Here's the shame one. 66. Okay. All right. So this is, again, the perfectionist thing and where you can be hard on yourself. I mean, when I can be hard on myself, feeling shame for not being sustainable, for eating meat, or for purchasing fast fashion when you are fighting to get through the day, feeling overwhelmed, is not going to cause you to magically gain the ability to do something different. Shame is a horrible long-term motivator. It is more likely to contribute to dysfunction and continued cycles of unsustainable practices. And here's where I was giving myself a minute to think about this, because my immediate reaction was, what about for some people? I feel like some people need some shame in their life. And I thought, well, what's the difference? Because there's shame that contributes to continued cycles of unsustainable practices and dysfunction. And there's shame that acts as a social check on behavior, like what Jim was referring to. And what I came to was that there's internal shame, which is like she's talking about in the book, and which I don't think is helpful. And then there's public shame, like don't support these businesses that are sending arms to Israel or Russia, that kind of thing. And like targeted boycotts. And like, I think public shame is great. I think if we all get together and say, this person is doing something we all don't like, and this shouldn't still be in office, I think that's a good strategy. But maybe I'm not getting some psychological nuance. Maybe it's something different in action. But that's where I drew the line, where I said internal shame is not helpful in that respect. But public shame, when it's like a social agreement of society, I feel like that's actually something that has a function in today's society. What do you think? So I'll come back to the chat here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, if everyone has the same moral, Catpot agrees with Jenny. Yeah, that's like the side thing, because I mean, does it have to be everyone, or can it be a majority of a group, like voting? I don't know. Tan says all the descriptions are in the link below. Thank you. Julie's answer to the question of the day: I make the distinction between guilt and shame, which is a Brené Brown classic. Guilt is the feeling I get when I've made a mistake. Shame is the feeling I get when I am a mistake. So no shame. And again, that fits into my line because that's internalized shame. So that makes sense. What do you think about public shame? Tyann says, but guilt can be determined by others too. Right. Because we have expectations and social values that make you feel guilty. Like those who hurt me are guilty of hurting me. Oh, that's like culpable. That's not the same guilt, I think, that Julie is talking about. Are guilty of hurting me, whether they hold shame for it or not. guilt can be determined by others. Yeah, I would say I would call that culpability rather than like guilt in that same context, if that makes sense. I'm not sure they'd feel guilt or shame in such moments, but guilt feels more imposed by others to me. I think it's imposed by like the internalized structures in ourselves that were given to us by our upbringings. What do you think? I like that pondering, Julie. Guilt can be messy too, though. We often feel guilty for things that shouldn't make us feel guilty, i.e., taking time just for yourself. Yes, that's the outside pressures or the internalized structures from outside pressures. I would argue, but let's see. Like the mother on trial, Clancy, should she feel shame? Guilt is established. Okay, I've been turning away from this because this is one of these like sensationalist court cases that I don't need to get into. But I've seen lots of headlines, lots of videos about it, and I just can't focus and let in another headline. So this is one of the news pieces that I'm choosing not to pay attention to. Cat Paw says, like many neurodivergent folks, I have a self-imposed and exaggerated relationship with both guilt and shame. It is not healthy. Yeah, internal. Okay, that's, yeah, and highlighting that it is a neurodivergent trait to struggle with those things is totally valid. Julie says, to your point, Tyann, there are times I do feel legitimately guilty, and that's valid. If I commit a crime, I would feel guilty. And as you said, others may not. Okay. Tyann says, I think it's how we interpret and carry shame that is far more important than how we define it or label it. How we interpret and carry shame. Yeah, let's see. So, and here, the shame is about not getting everything right when you're struggling to like move throughout the day, and that should be left behind, in her opinion. And I agree with that. Is it how we interpret shame? I don't think a person in this case is interpreting shame. I think they're carrying it, and it doesn't feel like a choice. And so like highlighting the fact that it is a choice and you can let go of it is, I think, a good strategy for the book. Jenny says, I feel like shame and guilt can often isolate us when we really need people around. Yes, totally, totally true. Again, a reason to jeter à la poubelle, throw it out. Yeah, Cat Paw agrees too. Agree to Jenny. Yes, Julie says. So sharing our shames could reshape how society works, but removing isolation from it. Okay, this doesn't go into your next comment, so I'm looking for the ending to this thought. Can you edit that? Tyann says, I'm loving the body positivity content I see personally, where the world tells big bodies to be ashamed. Humans are saying, the blank I will. I'll say that, yeah. Yeah, rejecting shame that is externally pressured to be put on. Yeah, that's a great trend, I think. Jim says a certain incumbent of the White House seems pretty shameless. Exactly. All of them have to be. I think that's about the body shaming comment. I'm not sure about the isolation comment. So if you can rephrase that for me. Whoops. Jenny says he has no empathy, Jim. Don't think he's capable of anything other than anger. I learned a new term today from Wajahat and Allison's podcast yesterday, and it was the dark triad. Have any of you guys heard of the dark triad? It's a triplet of personality disorders or conditions or whatever you want to call them that someone was saying, yeah, I think Trump has it, which I thought was like, oh, what is that? So I had to go look it up. I was like, And says he's a monster under our beds. Good thing I have a baseball bat. All right. And a bat. Oh, wrong sort. That was funny. I'll throw one of them too if it works. Hey, no harming of bats in the making of this stream, please. By not but. My fingers don't listen. Oh, okay. By isolation. So sharing our shames could reshape how society works. Oh, by removing isolation from it. So let me think. Sharing our internal shames could reshape how society works. Totally. By removing isolation from it. Yes, because then we're knitting together. We're healing ourselves and each other together so that we are, I think, more resilient in a good way. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. My brain didn't make the leap, so that's helpful. So yes, I love all this. This is a great discussion. Okay, so shame, and that's our question of the day. Well done. Let's see. I have a couple more quotes. One was, I love the humor in this book, so I just wanted to highlight one of the funny things that was in here. Page 118. Whoops. Did not get the cake, so it's okay. She's talking about rituals. If you are someone who can walk into a messy room and just start picking up random items and putting them away like some kind of freaking wizard, I am truly happy for you. So she's calling it out. You know, she's saying, like, some people can do this. That's fine. And some people can't. And that's me. And here's what I do to get around it. She says, I am not like that. I will wander around feeling overwhelmed for 20 minutes and then give up. Or I'll start picking up random items only to hold them or set them somewhere else so they don't get somewhere else they don't go before getting sucked into some tiny project that doesn't matter, like organizing my yarn collection. Does that sound familiar to anybody? So yeah, I just like how she's very direct, very literal. She's made this intentionally very accessible to different kinds of neurodivergence, which I think is kind of the point, because that's who the book is for, which I think is brilliant. And the humor also like works across brain patterns. So that was nice. And then let's see. 93. Just pointing out, research shows that people who report feeling burnout can take months or even years before they start feeling recovered from the damage of that psychological stress. So that was under the section, how do I know if I need a break or if I'm just being lazy? And this relates to the thing that came up during my discussion with Melissa that was about, is it rewards or is it maintenance? And I talked to someone else who was like, who needs rewards as an adult? Just make it something that you need because you're you. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I fully support anyone who has their own reward system that works, but mine sort of like collapsed. And I was like feeling weird about it because if I say, oh, I need to take a walk outside now as a reward, I need a break, I need to stop doing whatever on the computer. But then I'm like, but I'm not doing anything to earn this. I just need to do this to be healthy, mentally, physically, etc. So like, why is it a reward? Why can't it just be like one of my maintenance tasks, you know? And I think that's healthy too, at least for me. So that's what we're doing now. That was a kind of like mini discovery, and we were sort of on the cusp of it there. So that's where I've come to when I thought about it. And then 110, last little quote is about, is it the whole paragraph? Yeah, the whole paragraph here is in bold. Summary of this section is, yes, division of labor. So the setup is this very end of the chapter. And basically she's saying that she knows there are situations where people are taking advantage of some people's high standards of cleaning or internalized shame about not having a clean house. For example, many gendered households have a husband who will feel free to relax after a day at the office and not contribute to the care tasks around the home. And so she's trying to address this and saying it's not the same as feeling entitled and exploiting the labor of your household partner when you cannot do all the things. Like, just because you are accepting help does not mean you are exploiting other people. So it's not an equivalence, basically. It's a false equivalency. So here's the summary in bold. Contribution and productivity are not moral values, meaning contribution to the household labor. But non-exploitation and humility are moral values. When someone demands the benefits of being a part of a family, but refuses responsibilities to that family of which they are capable, it's a form of entitlement that exploits the other members of that family. Okay. However, having a limited capacity is not the same as being entitled. Guilt, it might make that feel correct. And accepting help is not the same as exploiting others. This is for people who have a hard time accepting help. I thought that was a really good distinction to make, because people might be in a mental trap of seeing those things as equivalent. When she outlines it, it's really a different definition, and you need to be easier on yourself. I was like, yeah. So I thought that might be helpful to some people out there. And again, very helpful book. So highly recommend. Most interesting book award this month. Let me catch up here in the chat. Diane says, that's how I use social media, to be honest. Where I used to hide, now I am out there, so no one can talk about me as if I'm hidden away or something. Removing isolation from shame. Gotcha. Nice. Perimenopausal, I think. Hey, whatever moves you into like a new era of healing, I'm all for it. Julie says, I hadn't thought of the concept of public shame. I do remember my mom didn't buy grapes during the Cesar Chavez boycott in 76. A bummer because I love grapes. Oh my gosh. That definitely like stayed in your memory. Wow. Yeah, the boycotts. Tayan says, my husband is very inefficient with housework, and it isn't weaponized incompetence. And it's been quite a year with figuring out how to best arrange things to give us more of a break when we are so overwhelmed. Yeah. It's a capability and like an issue to work out between yourselves, like how you make the whole household function. So you discuss it and agree on things rather than proclaiming entitlement. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how a good relationship works. Jenny says, I can only do that with books or DVDs. If they aren't alphabetical, it irks me. Can only do... Oh, see, I missed what you're referring to, Jenny. Remind me. Sorry, I overindulge in reward. I can reward all day, but I'm working on things. Yeah. So what happens to your brain when you say it's not a reward, it's just something that I need at this moment, or it's something my brain needs to stay focused, or it's something that my brain needs to take a break so that it can come back to the work? Like, what if you just incorporate it into your process rather than saying, oh, I've been a good person because I did X. You're still a good person at any level, at any function, right? Diane says, that's what I'm doing. Why is it in a word? It's just healthy. Yes, that's the point. It's just healthy. Jay says, bed rot in my overindulgence. I've gotten really bad for procrastinating, and it's frustrating trying to push through and still not getting everything done fast enough. Well, this book is suggesting you don't have to get everything done. You just need to have it functional enough for you, right? You are your household. So just choose what feels like the most kind to future you. That's what Jess says in her planner videos. Be kind to future you. Diane says, I'm a stay-at-home spouse and my husband is very hands-on with the household upkeep. Lucky you. Yeah, to Jenny. Bed rot fits for me too. Okay. I'm currently taking over dinner where he always did dinner even after work. It came because he went from 12-hour shifts to home by 3 p.m. And so he took it as a task that hadn't existed. I'm learning to accept help, but it isn't easy. I know. I've felt on both ends of it, actually, recently. Yeah, it is hard. But it's time. It's time because we eat out a lot. Oh, that's why it's a task that hadn't existed. I see. It's so comforting. Diane, unfortunately, doesn't help with adulting. The bed rot, I think that's referring to. I read yesterday that women at 40 are choosing to become who they were at 16 before society formed them in tether. I've seen some videos on this too. I love it because it's like rediscovering the joy of what little you wanted. And I totally connect with that. Before like society piled on the expectations. Yes. That tracks. I was referring to the quote about walking into a room and just picking stuff up. Oh, okay. Well, okay. So you have a very like specific system that makes you feel at ease, and that's the books and DVDs being alphabetical. Okay. So what you're saying is that's what you can do without getting distracted. That's fine. Perhaps that's the most urgent task for future you to be kind about. The thing I was sort of saying you might want to consider is the getting everything done fast enough. Because if you don't need certain things to be done, you can just drop them off your list. the lady in the book is saying literally, like, you don't have to get everything done all at once. You don't have to if it's not functional for you. Like, just do little things that make you feel like you're making progress. Try it. Han says, I get off my butt a lot more is what has been happening. Dang, come over and put my books on the shelf right quick. You have a lot of books. I've been seeing those videos. We're going alphabetical, fiction, and nonfiction separate. I went to my dad's and rearranged his DVDs within 5 minutes of arriving. I think that might be something to do with, and you know, don't take my advice as being from a licensed professional, but like things you can control perhaps when other things are not within your reach to control. Yeah. Just supply the Dr. Pepper. That's good. Hey, you know, if that helps us feel more at ease. Coming to a pantry near you. That's what I used to do. Okay, so the next category, now that we've gotten through our first book, oh my gosh, that took a long time because you guys are so good with comments. What did I race through? All right, so that was a library book, and now I'm going to get into the books that like really held my attention. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 in this category, and the first one, the one I raced through the fastest, is a big book, and it's a fantasy romance. This is the one that was a little bit of a guilty pleasure. A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. I'd heard good things, and I was like, oh, I should read it. I picked it up. It wasn't very inexpensive at almost $10, but I don't know. I just thought it would be good. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It is really good, and this is what I will say. It's an interesting take or twist on Beauty and the Beast. It's dual POV, like so many fantasy romances. It reminded me a lot of Must Wear Breeches, which is one of my favorite historical romances that has time travel in it, because we've got a portal fantasy, right? This has part real world, which is where the female main character comes from, and part fantasy world, which is where the male main character comes from. So it's a portal fantasy. It's enemies to lovers as the trope, and they both have this like try to sacrifice for the right thing. So it gives a lot of pathos to the journey that they are on, to find like how to save the world and how to save each other, etc. And so it was very satisfying. The only thing I will say is that it's a beginning of a trilogy, and the way they did that was like basically tweaking and yanking a secondary character out of their prescribed track and giving them a new thing at the very end. And that doesn't make me interested to continue the series. You know, like it's not his character that he would have done that, and it just was an excuse to keep going. So, oh well. So I'm not interested in continuing, but this was very good. And if you do like Beauty and the Beast retellings and you want a good like fantasy with fast action and like tearing people apart and like secrets, and it was very entertaining. So I did race through this and very much enjoyed it. It's got a very cool cover. It's got a very Venn cover. So yeah, so that would be I loved it. It was great. The next one on what did I race through is another historical fiction. This is one that I thought I would read much faster. Godmersham Park by Jill Hornby. This was actually in my video from the Great British Book Haul, which I think was from 2024, which is only 2.5 years ago. It feels like forever. But the reason why it took me so long, Jill Hornby wrote Miss Austen, which I listened to on audiobook and absolutely loved. She does Jane Austen like spin-offs that are historical and based in fact. And the reason it took me so long, I believe, is because I read Jane Austen Society and was so disappointed that it was like not based on real fact at all. It was just like made up stuff. So I was sort of turned off of Jane Austen spin-offs. But I finally picked this one up because I was really looking for, as I say, the first line in my description. It is a truth universally acknowledged that when you are reading so many nonfiction serious books at once, you need to break off and have something a little lighthearted and fun. And that's what this was. It was great. So I read it in 2 days, and it is taking the perspective of Anne, Miss Sharp, who is a governess at Godmersham Park, an actual person. Godmersham Park is where one of Jane's brothers, Jane Austen's brothers, lived. He was the one who was adopted by a rich family because they didn't have any heirs, and he took up their name and like dropped into a totally rich life. And it was like a weird thing that happened in those days. So Godmersham Park is this very fancy place. I don't think it exists anymore. I don't remember. But yeah, 200 years, a lot of things happen, right? And we take the viewpoint of the governess who is at this very happy family's little bubble in Godmersham Park. And we get to see an instigating incident in her backstory, and it's sort of a mystery. And then we get to see how she fits in with this perfectly happy family. And it's fascinating. It's gentle. It's historically accurate. It's revealing. It's got some very sly social commentary. And then maybe halfway through, Jane Austen comes into the picture, and we get the sort of like portrayal of her. So here's what I would have to say about this. Anne Sharp as a heroine is quite a good heroine. I really liked her internal monologue. I didn't guess the mysterious instigator thing in her backstory until embarrassingly late, but it totally makes sense. She's admirable, she's honest, she's witty, and so I like being in her head for the novel. I thought the portrayal of Jane was kind of funny, kind of odd, kind of off. Same for Cassandra, same for Henry. So while the portrayal of the Austen family seemed a bit strange, I liked it better in Miss Austen. I did think it was fine, and it helped Anne's story progress, and just made for some humor and some sort of awkward situations to navigate. So yeah, very enjoyable. Let's see. I have one quote in here from page 195 that was a biblioserendipity quote. 195 with one of my current reads. So here it is. So let's see. Mrs. Austen, who is the very smug sort of mother who employs Anne Sharp, convinces Anne to buy a lottery ticket, which is kind of a lot to come out of governess's salary. And then she doesn't win. So she's called to her room, and Anne is afraid she's done something wrong, but Mrs. Austen is just apologizing for making her buy a ticket. I feel so very responsible for wasting your money. I simply did have this hunch. And in fact, she smiled happily. That hunch was correct. Godmersham was due some luck on this round. My husband won a magnificent £12. But of course, money, Anne was starting to learn, is a curious substance with properties unique to itself. It chose to flow only to the places where money was already established, and once there, liked to pool to a depth so very great that a person might drown in it. Rarely, if ever, would it cut some alternate course. And in case you don't know what I'm reading, that is a money quote, because I'm reading something called Sacred Economics, where it says that the reason our system is so rotten right now is not that we're using money, because money as a concept is fine as a unit of exchange. It's that because of interest and usury, all the money flows to the people who already have it, because that's where it can make interest and make more of itself. Whereas what it really should do is, like in a gift economy, flow to who needs it the most. So interesting that there was a little correlation in the historical fiction. So I like that very much. What's dropped? Okay, just a little, what is that called? The thing upon which you put a hot beverage, whatever that is called. So yes, I raced through that one. Let me catch up on the chat here. We've got 20 comments that I haven't looked at. Oof. Okay. Dr. Pepper, I've officially DNF'd that last book I was reading, since otherwise I'm still reading it. And I think that's just a lie at this point. All right. Just facing up to the facts. Jenny says, I need to learn to DNF, but I keep thinking that it will not defeat me. Yes, we've heard your thoughts on this. We have multiple opinions on it, but you do you, Jenny. Tyann says, it's been 3 weeks since I picked it up and I liked it. I don't know. I don't love YA a lot, or romance, and I want to know who done it, but otherwise I have zero cares. I'll look up the plot later. Yeah, I've done this pretty recently as well. The Dungeon Crawler Carl books are what I've been plowing through. Okay, so those are pretty good, pretty hyped, pretty liked books on Booktube. Cat Paw says, I can only read on my phone at the moment, and I find that too draining most of the time. Need to acquire another small tablet. Gotcha. Yeah, the ebooks. You got to have a good system for sure. Diane says, I won't review it because I liked it. I just don't want to read it, and I don't know how many stars that is. Fair enough. Some people don't review DNFs. All covers are Venn covers. Okay. That's so pretty. Jill Hornby. You like the Jill Hornby book? Yeah, I liked it. It's got some gold foil on it, which you might be able to see. But basically it's just like a little Jane Austen suggestive, pretty period piece. Yeah, it's nice. Jenny says, I can't read on a tablet or phone. I'm too easily led astray. Kindle for me. Have you gotten any new pretty books, Ven? My Kindle is too old. Oh, because of the whole like not downloading things anymore. Yeah, because arseholes over there. I just have to drop that in. Ben says, I am being good. Narrates indie sale this weekend, though so it won't last. Narrates? Oh, narrate apostrophe S maybe, because I just saw you post about this. If people are into a certain kind of genre, there's an indie sale going on. It went right through my brain, so I can't really get the details. I just know that you posted about it. Feel shame over how little reading I've done. Hey, you're doing other things. No one says you have a reading quota, right? Reminder to stay away from the indie sale then. Aha. Now, Taya, none of that. Exactly. You were reading the comments. That counts. Ha! There you go. Tyan, just put those word count in. Hi, Leslie. Listening while at work. Nice to see you. Kappa asks, have you read any of Lucy Worsley's Jane Austen at home? There's a docu on YouTube to accompany too. I feel as though I have. I had a book of hers that was like a pink red cover, and if it wasn't at home, it was something similar, a Lucy Worsley, and I got, I don't know, maybe like 80 pages into it, and I just sort of got stuck and I didn't care, kind of like what Tyann was saying. And so after a while of that, picking it up several times and going, I'm not clicking with her tone of voice. I just gave it away. So coaster, thank you. Warming plate. No, it's just a coaster. My husband calls our library the trophy room. He's all audiobook lately. And it's not even a coaster. It's actually a tile sample that I use as a coaster. So, that's how we do here. He DNF'd the last indie rec I gave him. Fair enough. Everyone's got different tastes. All right. Did I race through any others? Yes, I have two more that I raced through. So we've got a reread. So I'll give you the reread. It was The Burnout by Sophie Kinsella. And you might have heard me talk about this. I got this as an audiobook, and I remember snort laughing on the sidewalk and out loud laughing and giggling because of just the funny things that she brings in. So I reread this as, again, a break from my nonfiction books. And what I will say about this is that it's just as good as the audiobook in terms of reading experience. I found it to be inspirational in terms of the subject of burnout, because this is a woman who feels so hemmed in and trapped by her situation at work, which is like a non-supportive boss, a non-supportive coworker, multiple people leaving. She's getting all their workload. Like, she never gets on top of what she needs to do. She just feels like people are piling on, and she's not supported at all. And she's been there a couple years, and it's just like she's very depressed, and she's had like other symptoms, as in not feeling any desire for sex at all. She's like, her body is just on overload, right? And so she goes, she walks out one day, tries to join a convent, and then like runs away from this terrible colleague and runs into a brick wall. So there's definitely like that's a red flag. Definitely need to get some help. So she goes to somewhere she visited as a child that was a beach resort, but it's February, so it's a winter beach resort, to try to like calm down, do a little wellness retreat. And then wouldn't you know it, there's someone else there who is trying to recover from burnout. And so we have a lovely meet cute. It's very funny. It's enemies to lovers as well. On reading this, I will say that I could see that it was a bit cheesy. There's sort of like a childhood figure who's a guru and has dementia. So that's very convenient. I would say that there's like sort of caricatured secondary or tertiary characters. The hotel staff are like an Addams family of caricatures. It makes for funny like scenes for sure, but it's not very realistic. That's fine. It's a romance. I just thought that the two main characters were really well knitted together. They both had issues. They both like were trying to do the best they could. You can see her inner monologue and struggles to be like the better person and do what's good for herself, and then arguing with herself. I was like, this is very familiar. So I just really liked that part of it, and yeah, enjoyed it reading through a second time in paperback form. So win-win for the burnout. And then a cookbook, because we do cookbooks here. This one is a library read. You can see I had fun going through it. It's called Food is Love. This is just, I happened to pick it up. I didn't see it anywhere. It's recent. It's 2025 by Palak Patel. It's called Food is Love. And again, a little cheesy, a little not cheesy. I would say corny. There's a difference. So I don't know if we have the same understanding of those, but I like to read the little paragraph that the cookbook writers put before each recipe. And this one, she's like, this is what I loved from my school days. And this is what I love because the smell comes out and reminds me of my mother's cooking. And this is what I was taught when I first went to chef school, when I left the legal career or whatever. And so she's really giving you a glimpse of like the warm fuzzies every time she does a recipe. They're all plant-based. So it's healthy, and it's just feeling very positive for the planet, as well as positive for your gut health and your general health. And yeah, it's just such a lovely tone, and the warm fuzzies make it good for your mental health, even just to read it. So I haven't tried anything from here yet, but there were so many that just looked so enticing. So you can see that I had a lovely time going through it. Corny but good, lots of nice ideas, especially now that I'm more familiar. That's what I wrote, because I did go through the whole World Vegetarian Cookbook by Margaret Joffrey. That's my only interaction with Margaret Joffrey, who's like the queen of the Indian cookbook world. And then I also went through Monsoon, which is the most recent cookbook of Asma Khan. And I heard about Asma Khan because she was on the Trevor Noah podcast. So I loved Monsoon. I've made one Bengali cabbage that was really good. And I think I have 3 or 4 other recipes saved, but I had to bring it back to the library. So just familiarizing myself with more Indian cooking, and it's been fun. I've never cooked Indian food before. It always seems a little intimidating because the sauces are so rich and amazing that I couldn't possibly, right? But yeah, it's breaking it down. It's making it a little bit easier to see the elements and everything. And I'm getting little ingredients little by little. So yeah, doable. Raced through it, really enjoyed it. And that's that category. I like corny. I'm looking for corny in my life. And that is a quote from The Holiday. Jenny, I see you. Thank you for dropping that in. Kate Winslet, the queen. Love it. Let's see. Jenny says, I have the cutest coaster that I got when I was in Shetland. It's a Viking riding on the back of a sheep. A sheep? Not a Highland cow? Oh, all right. Well, I'll accept a sheep. That's good. Cheesy corny is needed more than ever these days, says Leslie. Yeah, I love corny and am corny, says Cyan. For sure. Corny that misses the mark is cheesy, which is okay, too. Corny that misses the mark is cheesy. Okay, I could see that. Yeah, that sounds like a good working definition. It's hard to pinpoint, laughing, corn, cheese. Yeah. Okay, so that was that category. What did I race through? What else do we have? We're going in order of like diminishing returns here. So the next one is steady, solid interest. And I've got 2 in this category. 1 fiction, 1 nonfiction. So 1 you won't be surprised to see. I'm done. I'm done with this one. Okay, so I definitely like the vision. I definitely like the mission. Drawdown. Let's see. The most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, edited by Paul Hawken. And there are so many so many copies of this, used copies everywhere I go. So apparently it was a huge bestseller, but people have definitely moved on. It's from, I think, 2016, somewhere in there. And there's a lot, right? But this took forever. So I read, I don't know, maybe like 50 pages into it, maybe like 30%. And I was like, this is 2 pages each of each approach. And it was very shallow. And it showed some of the science, some of the policy, and then what's being done in the area. So for example, it would give you, it's number 48 in solutions to do in-stream hydro. What is in-stream hydro? Who is running with it at the forefront of the industry? What has it been proved to do? What is the cost? What are the issues that are holding us back? That kind of thing. And it's sort of like a short resume article. And, you know, some of them are interesting to me because I know something about it, but some of them are like way out there. Concentrated solar, I think I knew about that one. Pasture cropping. Some of them are very interrelated, and so that was a little confusing. But anyway, so I put it down for a long time, like a year. I think I started this in 2024, 2025. Anyway, a long time. 15 months maybe it took me. Anyway, and so when I picked it back up, I was like, I want to finish this. I want to get this off my desk. It will not defeat me, as Jody says. And so I just like every morning I would read 1 or 2 of the little articles and try to get through and think about, so that I would remember each one rather than just having it be a blur. And that worked. So I sort of did my steady upward climb. And then there were a lot of coming attractions, which were the things that were like a little too wacko at the time of printing to calculate, but like have very promising returns. For example, repopulating the mammoth steppe. So basically the steppes in Central Asia or in like far North Russia used to be an ecosystem, and there's permafrost and pasture, and it's changing now because of global warming. And there's a Russian who has a center that is trying to introduce animals. He's got like a very small portion that he's been experimenting with introducing big grazing animals, like they used to have mammoths there. Of course, there are no more mammoths, but he's imitating the ecosystem effect and finding that when you keep the pasture crib down low, you don't have certain things growing, you have other things staying in stasis, and it really helps keep the carbon in the ground. And you're like, why don't we do this? People want to eat meat, just put the animals there, right? So anyway, lots of really cool things, lots of very hopeful things. I am following several sort of hopeful climate accounts on TikTok and on YouTube, and I would definitely recommend people check out Alaina Wood, Alaina. She's like an individual reporter sort of reporting on hopeful climate activities, which is fantastic. There's Simon Clark, who is British independent reporter doing a similar thing, but not only positive, sort of across the board. And then Rachel Donald, who I have already talked about, has the Planet Critical podcast here on YouTube. And she interviews people who are from a vast range, like a range this big, like huge, in terms of how they're attacking the climate dilemma and what aspect they're focusing on, because there's vastly different aspects. And she gets in really good with these like hour-long interviews. So those are great. So those are 3 good positive climate content creators that sort of are in the same genre. So go Climathon. We went 58 minutes before I mentioned Climathon. Woohoo! What else did I say? Not all areas I'm interested by or knowledgeable of, but on the second go, I kept plugging away and it will be a good reference. So yeah. So it's good to see those positive climate creators. Oh, and there's one of the links below, which is a Lena Norms video that came out this morning. And I already sent it to Ven because I was curious. But so Lena Norms is someone who's into environmentalist stuff, but also anti-fast fashion. She has a book called Half Arse. Just like, she's great. She's funny. She's charismatic. She's a good writer. She's got a poetry book out as well. And the video that I saw this morning was about the national emergency briefings. And this is something she describes that is going on in the UK because they're in like a national emergency at the moment. And there's really no action from the government, from the central government. And the people who have put in the time that know it's an emergency are like, well, if they're not doing it, we're going to do it. Kind of like the citizen climate assemblies in the EU. And so she attended one of these that was like local and community focused, and then saw that there's all these local community focused ones that have been published on YouTube. And so I'm definitely going to watch one. I've only watched one so far, but I'm definitely going to watch more, because I like to see how people are reacting to this and what's getting through, you know? So fantastic. Lena Norms. I put the video down below and I queued it up. I didn't queue that one up. It's in the description below. But yeah, there's a place for everyone to contribute. Hashtag hopeful. Hashtag climathon. Yes. Okay, so those are the two steady, solid interests. And then we have two more that were just meh reading experiences, unfortunately. Oh, I didn't do this one. Sorry, I didn't finish this one. Steady, solid interest, the last C.J. Sansom book. So I think there's 7 in C.J. Sansom's series about Matthew Shardlake, the Tudor hunchback lawyer. It was an ill-fated pilot episode. No, it was an ill-fated first season. I only saw this pilot episode, clips of it. But it's a really good book series. It's historical fiction. It's mystery because he's a lawyer that basically does detective stuff, and it's very high in political intrigue. There is quite a bit of violence because of the times. There's religious strife. There's, you know, political intriguing. There's definitely enemies who go after him. But he also has a core inner group of allies and friends. And so I just think it's a really great introduction. He chooses a character who has a disability in that time and gives you a different viewpoint about how society worked. So yeah, and this one, oh my gosh, unfortunately this is the last book before C.J. Sansom passed away, but it's so good. So I put it off because I didn't want to read the last book, but I finally did. So there's no more C.J. Sansom. This is an endless book. It is a big old chunker. It is 800. I haven't read the historical essay yet. So 801. So this would definitely come up for March of the Mammoths if you were looking for a good book. It is an endless tale, but it is still, but I still didn't want it to end because I know it's the last one. In this report, what's the word I'm looking for? In this piece of Matthew Shardlake's life, we see bitter losses. We see him get to be more self-aware. We see an old wound that at last is healed in his life, which is nice to see sort of wrapped up for the series, and a lovely new beginning, which of course is sort of just the end at this point. But yeah, I'm not a Tudor person at all, and I'm glad I finally finished the series because now I can compare it to Wolf Hall, which I also just got. So yeah, I'm not really interested in Tudor times. I think it's overblown and overhyped, overrepresented, let's say, in Booktube. But I really got into this because it was a unique viewpoint. It was someone who was socially aware and, you know, interested in justice in his own time. It's taught me a lot about history, and I just felt like I could trust him as an author. So sad to see the last one, but like really enjoyed the Matthew Shardlake series. And this takes place in Norwich, to which I've never been, and I don't necessarily want to go because of the book, but interesting to see the history that happened with Kett's Rebellion in Norwich. So has anyone ever been to Norwich? Interested? Yeah, very, very interesting historical one. Okay, now for the meh reading experiences. Meh. So we got 2 left. I will say this one is included in this, and you saw me talk about this book a few videos ago. I've linked to that former video when I did an excerpt because there are some powerful quotes in here. But overall, I found this short book to be fine on info, but depressingly presented, and did not link the reader to the renaissance of new movements or other writers and thinkers to follow. So I would have preferred if it was more if it had more of pointing to people who were doing work in this area, it's talking about the Indian Act in Canada and basically highlighting things that were in the 1876 Indian Act legislation in Canada that are still affecting and have affected the long relationship that is fraught with injustice between the government of Canada and the British Empire and the Indigenous populations, and how they were treated and how that still affects the population today. And of course, I knew most of this, but like some of the details I did not. Some of the differences between Canada and America, I wouldn't know because they don't highlight the comparison at all. They just talk about the Canada one. So yeah, I would have preferred if they were like pointing to solutions or pointing to people who had newer ideas that were combating some of these evils that have been done. But it's really too short for that. So I don't know. It's not Bob Joseph's fault. He did a good job resuming, like shortening, summarizing these things. And hopefully it did some good for the Canadian community and getting people to be more aware. But yeah, I think I knew most of the issues, and it was meh. It was fine. It was truthful. It was well researched, but didn't give fully what I would like. And then the last meh reading experience was this sucker, John Greenwood. I thought I might have found, a new British mystery gem. He writes a series about a Mr. Mosley, who is a police inspector. I don't know. Their titles are so long. I'm watching Foyle's War, and I'm used to people saying Detective Chief Inspector now, but it is such a mouthful. Like, why do you have to have so many titles in front of your name? Anyway, this is sort of this British humor that is about someone who doesn't fit the mold. And so he does things his own way, which of course always turns out to be better and more accurate and get to the root of the problem. And then we get to hear about his superiors not liking his methods. And I'm just like over it. Like, I would have liked a different telling of the tale. It was an interesting crime/mystery, but the fussiness and it's not my humor. So 1980s British mystery humor that I didn't really get on with, but maybe other people would. Mosley by Moonlight is the name of the one that I found, and it's about a cozy little town in Yorkshire with a doddering old detective, and he's still on the force, and he has respect from some people. Very, very little is said. It's a Yorkshire sort of stiff upper lip kind of place, but the people who yammer on and on are the complainers and the higher ups of the police. Anyway, 1980s British humor. Pass me by. So yeah, don't need to try another John Greenwood, but it was good to know. I'm always looking for a new possibility. So that is my 8-book list of reads, and I'll go over my currently readings in just a second. So I'll give you time to put in yours. I'm still reading Sacred Economics. This is the one that had the quote in the Godmersham Park book that I thought was so killer, because it just talks to this one as well. Money is a curious substance. It flows to those who accumulate it at such a great depth that it can't be, I don't remember what it says, the great depth. But yeah, Charles Eisenstein, lots of tabs here. I'm maybe halfway through, and giving me a lot of things to think about. I may have to go through this review by sections. I thought it might be more entertaining to go through as I complete each chapter, because the ideas are very well built one upon the other. But then I thought, but I might change my mind by the time I get to the end. So I don't want to say all the things and then have to like change all my statements by the end. But I mean, that could be entertaining for you, but I really don't like that feeling. So, and then the other book I'm currently reading still is Connemara by Tim Robinson. He's kind of a dense writer. Some of his things are really interesting, but I'm turning this into a steady, slow interest. I'm trying to get through one chapter at a time. Sometimes they're like 3 pages and sometimes they're like 20, which is a bit off. But this is the area I'm visiting in Ireland in about a week and a half. So I wanted to try to get through it before I head out there, because I can't take these physical books with me. The suitcase I'm taking is a soft-sided, like tiny one for the puddle jumpers. Lining up soon is going to be this book, Governing Bodies, a library book by Sangamitra Iyer. I don't know if that's how you say, I don't know how to say Pico Iyer, but Iyer. A memoir, a confluence, a watershed. So kind of like a political memoir with environment. I am pretty excited to dive into that one. And then this one, which you can't see because it's interlibrary loan. Do I dare take it off so you could see it? I'm going to take it off. You're not supposed to take this off, but I think I can get it back on. It's How to Talk About Climate Change in a Way That Makes a Difference by Rebecca Huntley. And this wasn't available. It's, I think, an Australian. Yeah, Rebecca Huntley is one of Australia's most experienced social researchers and former director of the Mind and Mood Report, the longest running measure of the nation's attitudes and trends. So anyway, this one wasn't available in most U.S. Well, in my U.S. library system, so I had to request it. I don't know where it came from because that is hidden behind the barcode. And I will get this on. I'll get it back on later. So yeah, currently reading. Let's hear from other folks. Catch up here. Lena Norms is great. No nonsense, funny. Yes. And she highlighted one of the speakers who talked about the cost of modernizing for climate adaptation, Angela Francis. She used to be, she was like in the energy industry, and she's had a portfolio of like Europe and the Caribbean. I was like, that's interesting. Ven says, I need to finish watching that video. Got about halfway, and then the youngest demanded attention. Well, here we go. I must go now, friends. It's been fun. Thanks, Julie, for being here. I can't say not much is getting through to the general population so far. Sigh. Bye, Julie. Bye, Julie. Currently reading Fourth Wing. Oh, Jim. Enemies to lovers, close proximity. Close proximity is not a thing. The trope is forced proximity, meaning like you have to stay close together for some reason. Load of tropes and dragons. That's hilarious. Could you see a satirical novel coming out called A Load of Tropes and Dragons with that font, like the Gothic font? Oh my God, that would be priceless. And he's reading How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. Oh, okay. Double timeline, 1599 and present day. I've heard weird things about Matt Haig. I haven't read any of his books, so I don't know. You'll have to tell me if he's like off or weird or there's something characteristic of his writing. Jenny says, I'm flipping between the DCC4 What If ? Is that a different book? What If 2? Resident Evil Nemesis, and about 15 to 20 others because I have no self-control. That's a lot of books. 15 to 20? That's a lot. My brain couldn't handle that. So maybe you need to like calm your nervous system by putting a boundary there and letting yourself just finish something. Ben says, current reads a new release indie horror called Don't Let It Out by N.A. Betts and an audiobook off All Hail Chaos by Sarah Reese Brennan, a romantasy, narrated by Moira Quirk. I do know Moira Quirk. She's a superstar narrator. That's cool. I'm reading Monica by Cynthia Gomez, all by mistake. I was looking for Malinali by Veronica Chapa and got confused. I don't know what either of those words mean, and I haven't heard of either of those authors, so sounds like an honest mistake to me. Jim says, forced proximity. The dragons Satan, Shadin, and Vi are bonded to are a couple, so they have to be together even if they hate each other. That's forced proximity. Okay. Yeah, and Anne McCaffrey does a similar thing. Her dragons, I think, can be mated or bonded, and then the writers sort of have like a weird tension, but I don't think she calls it out quite so needfully. But yeah, a little bit dicey when it's not your choice. Like that's consent alert, red flag. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that is us for today. Only 14 minutes over the hour. That's good. So 8 books in the past 3 weeks. That's pretty good. I did have like a little stats hurrah in the last stream, which is that I've hit over 100 read for the year. I've hit over 2,000 for Storygraphs, like read in my lifetime, which is sort of arbitrary, but I got to say 2,000. That's fun. And I hit 1,300 subscribers. So I finally hit another like big milestone. It has taken a year to increase by 100. So, hey, it's slow, but hey, I'm still here. So that was delightful. Yes, we love Anne McCaffrey. Aging a bit, her books, but that's fine. Oh, did I miss a comment? Yes, I did. I feel bad, as Fourth Wing will always be on my shit list to do to Yaros' disrespect of my language. I'd like to read it, but I know I'll hate it. Fair enough. Fair enough. And Campa says, I'm listening to The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin, 2 for Gareth's read-along. Oh, nice. Yeah, I thought I might join in for The Dispossessed because that was one that was on my list too, but it's too busy right now, so I can't in time for the live stream. Yay! Thank you, Leslie. It only took a year. All right, well, I'm going to go finish that cake before it attacks something else. Make sure to hydrate. Make sure to take care of yourself. Make sure to finish a book. Make yourself feel accomplished. That's my secret. It's my favorite Ursula K. Le Guin. Oh, okay. So you're like rereading by listening. Nice. Sweet. Well, thank you for being here, everybody. And again, take care of yourselves and happy reading. It is a Wednesday, so, we still got some of the week to get through, but you'll make it. I have faith. Yeah, that's all I got for you today. So coffee and reading sounds good. All right. I will join you virtually there, Jenny. Bye, everyone.